guys, good afternoon. My name is Jason Flame, host of the Master Motivation Podcast. Very excited to have the founder of TrainLiftShoot.com with us today. This is Mr. Michael Kramp. He is a seasoned entrepreneur, martial arts school owner, SWAT operator, and leadership professional with a remarkable career spanning business, public service, and personal development. After more than 30 years in leadership, with 15 in the wireless industry and 17 years with Central Martial Arts, into a new career while continuing to lead core martial arts in Yukon, Oklahoma, where he has built a thriving school since 2012. Michael has also served his community as the Reserve Deputy and SWAT operator, and is the founder of TrainLiftShoot.com, a successful training platform dedicated to helping others perform at their highest level. His unique experiences in business, martial arts, and tactical operations make for an inspiring conversation packed with leadership, discipline, and real-world lessons. So here he is, Mr. Michael Kramp.
Hello, that was mouthful.
It was, and I got it out pretty quick.
I guess so. Sometimes you think to yourself while you're in church, wow, have I really ever done anything, God? And then it's like you spit it all out and it makes it sound like I'm a hero. So I need to talk to you more, Jason.
Well, you do a lot of great things. And, it's always interesting, too, when I ask people to send me their bio, because I've received everything from like 2 or 3 bullet points to about a 3-page biography. And I try to narrow it into a couple sentences just for a nice, good introduction. And I think it hit all the points of what it is that you do. And there's a whole lot more that wasn't in there that I can't wait to talk about. So it's been a little while since we've caught up. You and I met years and years ago through Century Martial Arts. And you've done a lot of things since then. So I'm excited to really talk about it.
Yeah, you were my first coach. First thing I want to do is plug Century. So having spent 17 years with Century and getting to know everybody from the warehouse, the guys that push the brooms, to the high-level executive team, phenomenal group of people over there. And if it wasn't for Century, I never would have started my school. My school wouldn't be where it's at right now had I not met you. You were my first coach with martial arts industry association. It helped me kind of get my act together because I'm like 50 different things at once. And you were like, bring it all together. Let's pick 3. No, you can't have that. You were even saying at one point, no, you can't do that program right now. Which brought me the focus to keep us open for the last 13 years. So,
That's amazing. You're welcome and congratulations. You did all the legwork. I was also fortunate to, I've been a client of Century Martial Arts for as long as I've been in business, 32 years. And but with it is crazy, right? With the Martial Arts Industry Association, I jumped in first to learn how to help my business, and Mike Metzger was my coach and helped me learn all about the other side, all the things that I didn't really know going into the business. There's so much about the martial arts industry that we get focused on what we teach and just the art, and that's the core. That is so to speak your school's name, the core of what we do. But to run a successful business and to be able to continue serving our community and serving our students at the highest level, there are some business systems that help us do that. So I'm very grateful for that as well.
Well, it's, Century's gone through a lot of changes over the last 50 years. As you know, it's the 50th anniversary over there. Mikey Dillard is a phenomenal leader. He's the CEO over there. It was really, really hard for me to leave, but it was time. I felt it in my bones. And there's so many things I want to do, and you can't do it being chained to your desk. And so, with that being said, I think he's going to be a hell of a CEO. David is still there right now. And they're preparing for that 50-year anniversary. They're going to have the official training.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. I mean, and Mike Dillard, really solid kid. His dad was amazing. So I know that he's going to do great things. I really enjoy being part of the Century family still, even though I no longer work for the Martial Arts Industry Association, but longtime client. I would say that 95% of the products that we use in our martial arts school are Century products. So very grateful for them.
Yeah, and it's interesting because you and I were talking, and you said you do all these things. What is the common thread, right? You do A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and it really was Get a century by being a good customer. It would also bring some real world experience to them because at that time, way back when, they didn't have the crew that they had, which is all, everybody there is martial arts. It was neat. I mean, I was the only person there, and I remember when Mike Sr. came over to my office, he said, and this is 2009, yeah, I hear you do karate. And I was like, yeah, I'm competing actively right now. Any variety of full contact, knockdown, karate stuff to MMA, none of which I was very good at, by the way. And he said, let's go kick in the gym. And then we went through a couple kicks, and he goes, invite some people to come and do this. And so I put out a flyer throughout the facility. A couple people showed up. We trained for a couple months, and then he says, hey, I'm going to Aspen. Yeah, he goes to Aspen. Real world problems, right?
Yeah.
Real world problems, right? I'm going to Aspen, and let's have a test when we get back. And I was like, test? We don't even have a curriculum. You know, all we do is kick bags and stuff. He goes, well, create one. You know, but that's Mike in a nutshell. When he believes in you to do something, he doesn't have to tell you what to do. He just says, hey, go do it. I believe in you. So I sat down and I wrote down the curriculum that we used originally for the Century Martial Arts Club, which eventually became the core martial arts curriculum for the better part of 8 years. You know, striping, what we were going to do, katas, combinations, and even the breaking.
So let's talk a little bit more while we're on the martial arts aspect right now. Tell me and tell us a little bit more about your background. Like, where did you start in martial arts? How did you get your start? What system styles have you practiced?
Well, I remember I got a late start compared to some of these kids these days. Like one of my secondary black belt instructors, she's 17 now, and she's been with me since she was like 7, 8.
Yeah.
So I started when I was like 18. And I went with a buddy of mine to a Taekwondo, free Taekwondo club. Right?
Okay.
But that was George. George always wanted to try it. Well, I stayed and George left. You know, I ended up in a really long agreement at the time, which also taught me some things, right? And I ended up having to finance my black belt, but I never finished with that. And then I wanted something more traditional, so I found myself training in Shito-Ryu. I loved the traditional aspect of Japanese karate, right? Traditional Japanese karate. I found myself being a traditionalist. I don't like eclectic styles. It's not right for me. I mean, I do. We also train in Kramp, as you basics and Kramp, so defense tactics for military and law enforcement personnel. So I do all that stuff, but I keep it really simple. You know, it's 2 different doors that I walk through on any given day. And so after that, I fell in love with Kyokushin karate because it's the strongest karate, is what they say. Masayama, right?
Oh yeah.
I'm still friends with my original instructor. He came and did a guest instruction. And one of my buddies that I belted with way back when in 1995, he's my chief instructor over the school. We've been friends for over 30 years. And so
awesome.
Since that time, studied under Kramp, became an instructor at that, and then evolved in just eclectic defense tactics for law enforcement and military personnel, just because of my law enforcement connections. And
Right.
To me, that has been the biggest eye-opener on what we train on the mats traditionally, and where is that divide with real-world, terribleness, that big pot of terribleness that's out there waiting for anybody to
Yeah. Yeah. So you mentioned that you're not into the eclectic styles, but you've mentioned several different systems and styles. Kyokushin, Krav Maga, Shito-Ryu. Those are all very different. How did you develop your core curriculum for your martial arts school?
Well, just think about being in a bookstore or a library, right? A bookstore is better. My wife and I we're reading fanatics. At any given time when we're not watching a show together or talk a lot, we're right next to each other reading a book. And so it's like, hey, you want to go to the bookstore? We go to half price books. Buy some books. the first book that you pick up, do you finish it? But not really. Not if you don't know what you're looking for. You pick it up, you read the first couple of pages, you read the back of it, you think about it. Is this something I want to commit myself to this book? You even think about how thick that book is, right? Is it a thinner book? If I don't like it, am I going to be committed to finish it? That's what martial arts is. And when I didn't know anything at the age of 18, I went to hey, my buddy invited me. And I stayed in it for a while, and it was just your typical Taekwondo. It was American Taekwondo, I think is what he called it. And it just wasn't hard enough for me. It wasn't traditional enough for me. Like, I was reading a lot of books on samurais and stuff like that. I'd finished the book Shogun, which was awesome. By the way, it's like this thick, and they actually did a deal on Hulu, that miniseries, which was very true to that entire book. But I like the samurai warrior thing, the Miyamoto Musashi and all that stuff. And I wanted to be a bigger part of that. That's why I found the Shito-Ryu school. The only reason why I didn't continue to stay in that is I ended up moving. And when I moved to Oklahoma, I tried to find another Shito-Ryu school. I couldn't find it. I found this Kyokushin school, and that's when I fell in love with it. And so I stayed with that as long as I could. And then I started moving all over the country with the wireless industry. I lived in 11 different places. And that is a niche karate. You find a Taekwondo school by throwing a rock, but to find a traditional Japanese martial arts school, you'll find Shotokan, you might find Goju or something like that. So so there's this lapse in training. And so during that time, I found myself doing some combative stuff with people, just trying to stay in shape and trying to stay sharp, because every 2 years I was moving. When I moved back to Oklahoma, finally, I contacted my original instructor, who was just getting his school moving again. And, he's really kind of he needs Maya more than anybody. He's a great instructor, just has a really difficult time getting a school open and then keeping it open. And that's where I'm now trying to mentor him. But he said, yeah, let's start kicking again. So I was able to start kicking again. I stayed in Kyokushin. I started to evolve. I was competing all the time and getting the crap beat out of me all the time. And I discovered I had one superpower, and that is I can take a beating like no one. I can freaking take a beating. You know what I mean? I'm not. You'll be tired and finally gassed by the time I'm throwing a punch, because I can take a beating so good. And that's a really bad characteristic, but it's just my superpower. At any rate, we had a little bit of a falling out. I don't like big organizations. I don't like to belong to big organizations. I think that they have too much power, and I'm a rebel at heart. I'm a Texan, so it's like we don't like anybody. So he belonged to a governing body, and I'm not going to mention it, but I couldn't be in the same room with some of these people because of how they treated lower ranked people. I mean, it's almost like a military, where it was like, hey, go sit outside, sit on that step and wait for me to be out there, and I'll talk to you. It's like, I'm not a child. So we had falling out and started training under Master Dillard, Grandmaster Dillard, Hanshi Dillard now. And for the next 5 years, I got back into Taekwondo and ended up getting my 5th degree over the course of the 12 years that I was training with him. No, I take that back. We continued to train up to 15 years, that's true. But in the meantime, I had my school open. That's why. Yep. And I made the hard choice to change from a Taekwondo school to a full-on Kyokushin school 6 or 7 years ago, because I started training with my friend Bo that I originally got belted with, and I felt like I really missed it. And I started small turns to try to get, like, changing some of the katas and calling it core karate instead of core taekwondo or whatever, until we finally made the hard right angle turn about 6 years ago, where we just became a full Kyokushin school, and I haven't looked back. And since that time, I found that my adult program has exploded, because people want they want to feel connected to something. I don't mean to blabber, but it's like when I talk to some of the adults, and I've got guys that are one guy works for district attorney, but he's an investigator. One guy is a arson investigator. And I was like, why aren't you doing the combatives classes with us? Because that's not what I want. Yeah, I want something to show for my, I want to eventually get a black belt. And I like the idea that I belong to something more important than just showing up and training. So
Yeah. Wow. Cool.
that's why. And then, of course, along the way, I have a responsibility to help train others that I work with in the law enforcement community when and where I can. That's why no cop will ever pay when they come and train with us. It's like, nope, you're good. Just pay for your stuff along the way, your uniforms and stuff like that. But I don't charge anything for law enforcement. But on the combative side, we take that real serious, and that's all by the book. About, okay, we're not going to do silly things in this class. We're only going to train on the things that really pertain to our survival out in the street.
Well, and having all of your experience in law enforcement yourself and being in that, looking at it from that perspective, you're going to attract those same type of people that are looking for that very same thing. Now, you talked a little bit. Right? I'm sorry?
Birds of a feather, right?
The birds of a feather. That's right. So tell me a little bit more. You mentioned you're a Texan, so I'm assuming that you're from Texas originally. Is that?
Yeah, my dad and my family still owns land down there. He lives by the lake. Fiercely independent guy. He's 80 years old. Does his 4 miles. He either runs it or walks it. It just depends on the mood that he's in. And a couple times you go and see Dad, it's like you don't bring your running shoes, and then after a while you're like, man, this shit hurts. I didn't count on doing this. He's like, let's go. And so now it's like that's a must. I'm bringing my running shoes, and he's sharp as a tack. He worked for NASA, so he is a rocket scientist, aeronautical engineer, retired at the age of 50. If you had a conversation, you'd have a better time talking to my dad than me, because he's just so damn sharp. And so, he worked on the Apollo, the Gemini projects, and all that stuff, and it's hard to beat that. And he's a mathematician, which I will say this. Now that I've gone into explosive breaching for our teamwork, there's enough math in that to make him blush. And I couldn't do algebra when I was in high school. He actually made fun of me. He would shame me into math because he was so great at it. He's an aeronautical engineer. But now it's like there's enough math in there when you find a minimum safe distances and TNT equivalent. And I sent him all the math I did. It's like, glad I'm not involved with that anymore.
So, did you play sports in school? What were you like as a kid?
The only thing that I did was wrestle. I found that I absolutely suck at all team sports. I can't throw a ball. I can't make a basket. If you watch me run, I don't even run in a straight line. I'm not sure what that's about. If you ever have you seen Friends when Phoebe's running in the park? If you go back and watch one of the reruns, that's me. The only thing I don't have is my hands in the air doing this. I'm really bad at a lot of things, but it clicked one day. I was horribly bullied when I was growing up, like terribly bullied. I had my arm broken, head put in a toilet full of stuff in it, slammed in lockers. We had lockers back there that were long, so you could fit a body in there. Just got the tar beat out of me every day. Like, it was terrorism is what it was. And there was one cool kid that I went to junior high with, because it was junior high back then. It's all that. And he said, hey man, you should come to wrestling practice. And I was like, those are the guys that beat the shit out of me every day. Why would I want to be in there? He goes, just trust me. And I showed up, and they were doing the tryouts, and I rolled around, didn't really know what I was doing, but I could maintain a back position, which the coach liked. And ended up going to state my second year. And made varsity my second year and wrestled all through high school. So,
nice.
Yeah. Just found out that eventually you stand up for yourself in ways you didn't think you would, but by beating them, they're right. You know what I mean? So
yeah. Well, and I was going to ask, what was the lesson that you took away from being bullying, and how did that change or shape the way that you teach younger students now?
It's a core piece of what we do. It's every quarter or every belt cycle, we go through our Bully Buster and Stranger Danger stuff. And my instructors, God bless them, they've heard me relive my story over and over again, year after year, belt cycle after belt cycle. But they never get tired of it because it's important. Kids today get bullied in ways we didn't. You know, I mean, nowadays it's like it's either a full-on fight in the hallway, it seems like at a school, or it's cyberbullying. That seems what it is these days. It isn't waiting for the guy to walk around the corner and pushing him down and stuff like that, like it used to be with us. One of the things I took away, number one, it's probably why I can take a beating like no one else can. But the second was, the old thing, sticks and stones break my bones, but words won't hurt me. I believe in that. Like, you can say whatever you want to me. I've had people say to me, I've had soccer moms that I've pulled over say things that would make a Marine Corps drill instructor blush. And it's like, where did you learn that? You kissed your father with that mouth, young lady. So if words bugged me, that would be one thing. But if you touch me, it's on like ping pong, King Kong, and Hong Kong. And it's like, I will never allow someone to touch me again.
Yeah.
And if that happens, then I'm sorry to say that person won't be with us very much longer. And that's just how I am. I won't allow that. And when I talk to the kids and I train them, and the parents are all there when we're talking about this Bully Buster stuff, it's like, hey, you got to get the rules of engagement from your parents. But the way I'm teaching, and I think that they believe in this, is you cannot react to words, because they're trying to get between your 2 ears. They're trying to get at your gray matter. But you can't let someone touch you. You just can't, because once you do that, it's a permission slip for their friend and their friend. And then it's enabling them to crank up the pressure and do more. Well, he took this pretty good by pushing him down. What happens if we do this to him? Oh, wow, he still didn't react. And so, they continue to stretch the boundaries until you have some of these kids, and it's terrible, but the suicide rate amongst our youth is ever increasing. It's not going down.
No.
And a lot of it has to do with the peer pressures of what they're dealing with out there with truly rotten children. Get off my lawn.
Well, social media has changed a lot. It's something that, could you imagine if we had social media as we were growing up? Like, it just, I can't even fathom. As a matter of fact, you were talking about, expecting the bully to come around the corner and like push you or shove you or hit you into the locker. Like, how about the days that like someone just said, hey, we're going to fight after school. I'll meet you behind the building. And like everybody would meet, you would fight. And then after you would fight, you'd be best friends. And then you'd go back to business.
Like, okay, you took that rather well. We were
It was totally different. And now social media is a powerful tool either way. It's a powerful tool for good or for bad. And unfortunately, a lot of kids are suffering, with depression and just all the things that go with that, fear of missing out. People talk about FOMO, like posting pictures at parties and like they feel like they weren't invited, or people talking about other people. There's just, there's so much stuff that we didn't really deal with that. And it's a little hard to fully wrap our heads around it looking at kids now, because we didn't go through that same thing. So it's kind of a learning curve
on that. It's like, okay, we were afraid of walking around the corner of a building and being ambushed. But now a kid could roll over in the morning, because the first thing that they do is they turn on their phones and look, and there's the ambush. Somebody last night posted a picture of them doing something, and it already has 50 likes on it. And now they can't even get out of bed to go to school. And so I'm delighted that most of these states have adopted these no cell phones. Oklahoma has it now. You can't take your cell phone into school, and all these stupid, ridiculous excuses. Well, I need to know where my baby is at all times. He's at school. That's where he's at. He's going to be all right. You know what I mean?
Someone sent me a meme today about kids in the 70s, how, we would get up in the morning, get on our bike, ride across town, gone for 10 hours. The only rule was be back, before it was dark. And our parents had no idea where we were, what we were doing. And we were out okay.
Stuff that was fun and bad at the same time.
Like it was fun and bad.
On people's roofs, or walking across the monkey bars with no safety line. It's like, this is stuff that I would look at a kid if they were on top of the monkey bars, walking across each run going, don't move.
Yeah.
We're sending somebody up to get you, you know? But that was us back then in the 70s and in the 80s. It's like now it's, I don't know. All we can do as parents these days is work towards setting good examples and being approachable for conversation. You know?
I agree.
What you are about to tell me, whatever it is, will not shock me. You got to say that. And then you walk away going,
whoa.
Gotcha. Like I did not expect that.
Yeah.
So,
well, let's dive into some of these questions that I sent you, because we've been chatting for almost half hour now. We haven't touched the questions yet, but I want to know more about since you've built successful careers in corporate America, in martial arts, law enforcement, entrepreneurship now. So looking back, what are the experiences or values that have been the common thread that's connecting everything that you've done?
Well, again, I mean, I hate to say it, I'm not plugging them. I don't work for them. But it is Century, because even when I had my school, I knew that I could bring back revenue to the mothership. When I went into law enforcement, they didn't have to be an agreeable employer with that. Like 10 years ago, it's over 10 years ago, I said, listen, I want to become a reserve deputy. It's going to require me to be in classes from 6 to 10 o'clock, Tuesday and Thursday, all day, from 9 o'clock to 6 p.m. on Saturdays. I'm going to do my very best for it not to get in the way. And it got in the way. Because after you complete your reserve academy, you have to do what's called field training, officer training. And you get your FTO and you have to be on their shift, which means I had to take weeks on vacation, or I had to work it all night long and then try to come in the next day exhausted. And I was burning the candle too closely, but got through it. But because of that law enforcement connection, we were able to found our government division over there at Century and bring in hundreds of thousands of dollars in revenue because of the contacts and everything that we met. And Train Like Shoot, I became another big customer. 1 year I did $70,000 in prints with them, and then figured out to do it on our own. So it was a cornerstone. It was that keystone that was keeping all of these different spokes moving. Other than that, I would say the one key ingredient is I believe in myself. I believe that there's always a better way to do something. And I'm an experimenter. I'm an artist. I'm not a good artist, but I'm not a great martial artist by any stretch of the imagination. I'm not a great businessman by any stretch of the imagination, but I try and I get out there and I learn as much as I can about it. And my wife one time said, other guys are great starters, but you're a great finisher. And we saw that just in the community of Yukon when we opened and we experienced success. Everybody was moving martial arts schools. We ended up being the only one to stay. Until recently, I will say, somebody moved within a mile of my school, which I found amusing. And there's no good excuse for it other than, you guys know this. You guys have moved schools next to each other and everything. You know that you're going to get some of that, right? Some of those interested residents in that area. I always believe that there's enough business to go around, but it always seems so much better when you work with others. Like there's 3 BJJ schools in the area that I send people to. I have flyers for them. I'm not afraid of losing a student to a BJJ school if that's what they want to do, because I don't teach that,
Right.
And so we have a good tight community of various schools and styles in the area that we help each other out with. But again, I'll be here. Everybody wants what you have because it looks easy. And, luck was a 13-year journey. That's what luck is to me, is hard work for 13 years to get where we're at. So,
Yeah. Well, you'll get a kick out of this when you talk about, a school moving kind of close to you, because I've been in my community since 1994. We've bounced around a couple of different locations, but we've been in this current location for, I believe, 6 years. We teach karate, Krav Maga, and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And all of a sudden, 2 doors down, I see someone moving mats in, and now they've got a big sign up on the building. It's a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu school. And but the kicker is that the person that's running the school is the landlord's brother-in-law.
So he knows how well you do.
So I was like, wow, that's awesome, right? But hey, we're not going anywhere. We're
That's
still
right.
doing what we
I'll be
do, and
here. I'm a strong finisher. It's like bring
right,
your worst.
yeah,
The
it's
only
all
thing I'll
good.
say is that every single student that goes there is my student. You know what I mean? It's like they're not supposed to be there. They're mine. But then, hey man, we got to analyze ourselves too. If we're good competitors, we step back and we look in that accountability mirror and we say, what did I miss? Why are there students over there? They had
Yeah,
a choice, but they ended up over there.
right.
So I updated all my window graphics. Right, we went through a complete renovation in the facility, retaped all the mats, replaced the artwork, and then we had to make our decision. We haven't advertised in 13 years.
Yeah.
I've never advertised.
Well,
I
listen,
don't go to any of the community outreach stuff. I don't do the parades. I don't do those things. I don't. Number one, I don't like to do those things. We're at about 100 students, and we have always been at 100 students. I'm sure it could be more if I wanted to donate more of my time to that. But we do really well with that. We bill over $14,000 a month in revenue. And so now we have to work harder.
well, and that's the thing, when you're in business, there's always competition, and competition for us as martial arts schools really isn't the other martial arts schools. It's soccer, baseball, gymnastics, dance, all the other
Especially this
activities.
time of year.
But I live in a pretty small town, 36,000 people, and at one time there were 5 martial arts schools all in the same city, and we all did our thing. We all we're all surviving, right? But I think that competition does drive you, and not just in business, but in sports. When you got a competitor that's working real hard and they're on the rise,
Work harder.
you work a little harder. You change what you do a little bit to improve yourself. You don't allow yourself to be complacent and too comfortable. And so there's definitely some good that comes with that. Now, you talked a little bit about confidence. So you spent over 30 years in leadership, and you recently made the decision to just start a new career, right? What gave you the confidence to make that leap, and what advice would you give someone who's afraid to reinvent themselves?
One, and I know it sounds cheesy as hell, is you have to have a ridiculous fanatical belief in your ability. You just do. You have to have this unreasonable amount of belief that you're going to be okay. I'm not a preacher. I'm a Catholic, so by the very laws of the Roman Catholic Church, I can't preach, but I can give you testimony. And I have learned, especially over the last 6 months, that nothing I don't do anything until I've presented to God first. Whether or not it's a problem with my businesses or changing careers. I'm not asking him to solve it for me. I'm just saying, listen, you know about this already, but I'm bringing it to you first. And I think he wants us to be able to bring it to him first. And I'm not asking you to solve it for me, but I'm asking you to point the way, lead me to the right people. Give me that self-confidence on days where it's not so good. Open some windows, open some doors for me. Bless the advertising that I'm putting out there. And so that's the reason why I was able to make that change without losing my mind, because it's like, even though you're like, hey, I want to go, it's time for me to go. We worked out a 5-month deal. I said, I'll stay until July 1 to help find my replacement. And then I found myself at the end going, do I really want to go? Maybe I can make this work. Maybe I can stay. And once you've made that decision, you have to move on. And so, and I love what I do. I work with various companies, connecting them on anything from facilities management to logistics to inventory management, from one DC to the next. Things that I've learned over at Century, I get to apply just at a very ridiculous number of businesses out there need help. And especially when it comes to shipping and corrugated boxes and all that stuff. And right now, I've got a meeting with Century on Monday with this company to go through all, Century's the #1 shipper in the state of Oklahoma. It's a lot of boxes.
Yeah.
And they need help figuring that out because shipping is getting more and more expensive. So I'm meeting with them as a potential customer on Monday. But if you treat people right, employers can become customers, customers can become employers. Everybody just does each other right that way. So.
Well, let's back up a little bit. You started to talk a little bit about, being Catholic and talking about your faith and, uh, you know, leaning into God for guidance and support and for the vision. Uh, Talk to me a little bit more about your faith and how important that is in your life.
Well, I was a faker for a number of years, which is hard to look yourself in the mirror and say you call yourself a Christian, but you didn't do anything Christian. Like you read the Bible, but you didn't enact it. You prayed, but you prayed selfishly. And I had to kind of come to grips with some of that stuff. And it was right after I started SWAT because it scared the crap out of me being on that team. And not because I was fearful for my life, although that's always on the line. It was, don't let me fail. I started to develop this really innate sense of failure, like fear of failure was a real thing. It's like almost to the point where it was really getting in the way of my performance, right? So I'd go out there and shoot with the team before I was on the team. That's why I started to get recruited. I went through a heavy selection process to do this. And, there are guys that want that spot, and it's a joint agency. We work with ATF, FBI, Oklahoma Bureau of Narcotics, any of the alphabet soups out there. And we're doing really dangerous stuff. And the one thing that can get in the way of you and your teammates is trust. And if they're not trusting you because they saw something on the line, it scares them, you're in the back of the bus. All your hard work. Even though I'd go shoot with them and I was great at it, once I got on the team, I saw my skills regress because it's like, what if I fail? What if I shoot wrong? What if I don't? What if I miss? What if I go in the room wrong during training and all this stuff? And, I believe in my heart that that's what led me back to the Catholic Church because I found myself going to Mass on Tuesdays and Thursday mornings. I'm a morning guy. I like all the blue hairs and all the older ladies that I sit next to. It's my people. It's my flock. I was in Mass this morning, so I picked up Fridays as well. And I have been going every Tuesday and Thursday and Friday since then. And just it's building and building and building and building until finally it's like, okay, I'm giving everything. And everything turned around after that. So, and I know you're a Catholic too. I'll watch you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I was not, but I was not born Catholic. I was not born.
My wife, it's okay.
Yeah, right.
There's a little bit of a process, but we want you to. John Ryan.
There was a process for sure. Yeah, my wife was cradle Catholic, born and raised in the Catholic Church, and it wasn't until my daughter was born. Actually, my daughter was baptized, and I said, "Well, how can I be, the best father I can be, and help lead her in her faith if I'm not leading that life?" Prior to that, I was never baptized. I had never received any of the sacraments. I didn't really go to church. I was a believer for sure, and I was taught about Jesus, and I was taught about, leading that life, but we just didn't really practice it. Like you said, you could read the Bible, but if you don't enact it, I have a daily reader that I love reading every day because it just helps me with one verse and one message. And if I can do one thing that day that will just fit that piece, I'm starting to live that life and lead my children and support and lead my wife as well in that Catholic faith. And so, and then when we got married, we had to go through an encounter, the marriage retreat and encounter. And that was probably one of my favorite things that we ever did because we had to really sit down and talk about values and how we want to, how we want to live our lives and how we want to support our marriage and how we want to raise our kids and how we want to lead in our community. And that was amazing. One of the most, and we've been married since 1999, so 27 years. Thank you. And it's still,
wife, by the way.
Thank you. Gorgeous. Our wives are our best asset, I believe. Your life partner. Yeah. I'm sorry?
I have the picture of mine right back here. You can see it. I don't think they can see it with the split screen, but
yeah. But so just like you, it's like you're not perfect by any means. You're learning every day. You're getting better every day. You're getting closer and developing that relationship every day. My wife and I do a separate podcast on, love, marriage, couples, parenting, just kind of our experience, and we talk a lot about how our faith plays into that. So
Oh my gosh, I'm sure Nurse Jamie would love to attend that. Yeah. So you know
yeah.
that I call her Nurse Jamie.
Yes, sir. Yes, I do.
I sliced my finger separating frozen hamburger patties, and I was using a steak knife originally. And inside my head, I said, "Bro, you're going to cut your finger off. Use a butter knife." And so, but a butter knife is serrated, and it went through to the bone even worse than a steak knife. Steak knife would have been clean. This ripped my finger almost completely off. So got stitches, and then she was the nurse on duty, which she was phenomenal. And then I always take out my own stitches. Right here on my arm, everything. I've had 10 surgeries over the course of 13 years just because of stuff that I've done to myself. So I took out my own stitches and went in to get my stitches taken out. She comes in and looks at my finger and she says, "You already took your stitches out." I took my stitches out, but I haven't taken you out yet.
Oh, look at you. Smooth.
So, and we've been married for 4 years, and we've been together for 7 now. So,
awesome! Congratulations. Beautiful.
She would love that podcast.
Yeah, check it out. It's on the same channel as this podcast, and we do it usually every Wednesdays. We do it live. But we started it, and Jackie was not. She's not a very public person that way, and it was something that brought her out of her comfort zone, and now she loves it because we have this side. We literally sit right here where I'm sitting now, side by side, and just look at the camera and talk. But we're really having a conversation together, and it's a pretty cool legacy piece for our kids and something for us just to have that conversation every single week. So yeah, feel free to check it out.
I'll do that. I was just thinking about something that happened with my wife not too long ago, where she was like, first of all, she watches way too many shows where the spouse kills the other spouse, and it's how they get away with it. And I told her,
that's scary.
I'm disturbed by the amount of shows that you're watching. Right?
She's taking notes.
And that's when she said, I listen to a lot of marriage, stuff too, to, how to be a better wife. And I was like, how do you make that hard corner turn from listening how to be a better Catholic and wife to Snapped, the name of the show, Snapped. I killed my husband and got away with it. I mean, how do you do that? Anyway.
It just, they pull you in. My wife and I got stuck listening to a podcast as we went to visit my mom in Utah. We're like, we're going to listen to a podcast instead of listening to music the whole way. We ended up listening to a story about the one of the bachelors, how he met a girl and how she claimed that she was pregnant, but she wasn't. But it was just god awful. But we kept listening because it sucked us in within like the first episode. And we listened to I'm telling you, 18 hours because, on the way there and on the way back for us. Yeah. I'm like, what are we listening to? This was this is like watching, literally watching The Bachelor on TV, which we do that too. We watch all those shows are just crazy. Anyway, let's talk a little bit about SWAT.
Yeah, right? Let's do that. I see that on there.
So you serve as both a SWAT operator and a martial arts instructor, of course, right? How has tactical training changed your perspective on self-defense, leadership, and on decision-making when under pressure?
Well, first of all, when you get on a team, a special operations team, you're not prepared to go into a house for a couple years. You're going to be training and training and training before you walk through the threshold of the door for 2+ years, 3 years even, right? And again, it goes back to that trust. And it's funny because I'm training a rookie now. I'm an FTO now, and I've got a new kid on the team. He's 28. He runs like Forrest Gump, so we call him Gump. Everybody has nicknames. I'm Krampus, the anti-Christmas Saint Nick, right? Look up Krampus if you're not sure what that is.
Oh, I got it.
And I'm also German, so that's kind of funny, right? Or they'll call me Father Christmas sometimes, which I don't get. I'm an older guy on the team, but that's fine. But he's a young kid, and he's a genuinely good person, but he doesn't know jack about jack. And so now I've got to impart ways to him, and it kind of goes to you learn as much by teaching as by doing. Matter of fact, you retain more when you teach because you're flipping through files to do this stuff. And I gave him a top 10 things that I've learned in SWAT. I always pass it on to any new guy joining the team. I wrote it a couple years ago, and it really hasn't changed. It has changed everything about what I do. It's changed about how I do business. It's changed how I look at the world. One thing that happened when I was kind of struggling, as I was telling you, I was going through that fear of failure after a year or two, and it happens to guys where you're around some of the best shooters in the state, maybe in the tri-state area. You're with a team that's been together for over 10 years. They have hundreds of missions, and here it is, you're the new guy pretending that you know what you're doing. And I've even seen new guys come on and they're like, that's the win for them, getting on the team. That's the win. No, man, that's the work. Now it's work. Now you've got to prove yourself. Don't post pictures. Be a quiet, just like what we talked about. Be a quiet professional out there. But you have to look at things as a SWAT operator full time, even though you don't do it full time. And that's where things changed for me, is when, I walk into a building and I'm thinking to myself, how many guys would it take if we had to breach this and go in and, where are the threats, where are the exits, all this stuff. I think about it all the time now. And I think it helps keep my family safe. I'm not paranoid. And just things are going through my mind as I think about this stuff. As martial arts instructors, we always say the best defense is not to be there, right? So there are certain things we don't go and do. It was just this year that I went to my first concert in probably 30 years. I went and saw Shinedown, which was phenomenal. And then I'm a massive Rush fan, and I got to see Rush. And I realized how much I missed that. But I also, while I was there, I realized how much I missed my firearm.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so, but as an operator, it's changed everything that I do. It's changed how I look at problems, because operators are great problem solvers. The bigger the problem, the better, because it gives us an opportunity to exercise those skills of problem solving, right? How many people do I need on this problem? Can I solve this myself? What kind of tool do I need? I've learned that it's not your gear. Everybody wants the latest firearm. Oh, it's a staccato. You know what? Get proficient with what you've got and then upgrade. You have to begin to outperform your tools before you need new tools, right? And it's all of those things have changed how I do business, even who I choose to bring into my circle. Because once you're around a group of guys that would literally die for you, it makes you analyze the relationships that you've got. But one of the things, the biggest takeaway, and I'll leave you with this, is Hick's Law. It's called Hick's Law. Hick's Law is that if you give someone too many choices at one time, they short circuit, because too many, and it happens with teenagers too. Think about parents. Well, honey, you can do softball, you can do soccer, you can do basketball, you can do martial arts, and then the kid short circuits, tries one, fails, tries another one, fails. With bad guys, it's, we want this window broken with a flashbang going off. We want the door being blown off the hinges. We want someone raking the side. We want so much going on that the person is presented with so many decisions on how to react, they can't react properly. Right? But if you take that and you bring it into this, the world of being a martial arts school owner, you see that with parents all the time. You see it with kids all the time too. There's too many choices. There's not enough focus, right? Yep. And so that's how I look at Hick's Law, even when we're trying to figure out what to eat on our Friday. I'm serious. It's like, what do you want to eat? I don't know. What do you want to eat? Why? First. It's like, I'm going to present you with 3 things, and you're not going to like any one of those 3 things. So why don't you just order what you want?
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
I was just talking to, I think I was talking to my wife about it, in a couple different situations presented itself, but the paralysis by analysis, same, where too many things going on, and you're so stuck in the thought of making the decision that you can't make a decision.
Can't get out of that decision.
And it's super tough. And so this is what I love about, listen, I'm not a SWAT operator. I'm not law enforcement, not in any of these situations that you're in, but in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, we talk about problem solving, and if you're in a certain situation, you've got options. You've got this option, you got that option, but you got to solve the problem. And this is what I think, martial arts helps us and young kids do, is learn how to be a problem solver, instead of just recognizing there's, what the problems are, but being an actual problem solver. And, even you were talking about like going to the concerts and stuff. When I started learning Krav Maga, I'm a traditional martial artist, from the beginning. Tong Sudo was my first style, and started in 1985, all the way until the mid 2010, 11, 12 area. I didn't even start Krav Maga until then. But I can tell you that the more I learned, and a lot of my Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu coach is in law enforcement. My instructor is in law enforcement. People I'm surrounded with, so we end up having lots of conversations through training of situations that could come about, and we have done some room clearing and different things, and the reason I say all of that is because it makes you a little stressed out. Like when you go to a concert or when you go to Disneyland or you go to places and you're like, shit, you start analyzing everything. Well, what if this happens right now? Or what if that happens right now? What if this? And by the way, I'm in California. So by the way, even if I really could, if I was carrying a gun, there's nothing I could do with it, because of the laws here.
Brought up on charges because they care more about persecuting and prosecuting citizens.
Enough said, right? It's so, but I guess just going back to that whole thing about problem solving and also analyzing situations. I mean, this is the perspective that we get from our training, that the average person, like if I teach a women's self-defense seminar, I give a couple scenarios and they go, how could that even happen? And like it doesn't even cross their mind that it could happen.
It happened, and I'm teaching you it because you get to live off someone else's bad experience. That's what
right.
It's like, okay, look, you've got a 1 in 3 chance of something bad happening to you. Maybe it's not a violent altercation. The chances go up the more you put yourself in bad positions and you're in the wrong place at the wrong time. Mm-hmm. With the crop stuff, we've always said the assumptions you must carry with you every day are, number one, if I get into an altercation, there's always going to be more than one person. Number two, they're always going to be armed. And number three is if they get you down on the ground, unless you know how to handle yourself, like that's a snake hole. So try to stay up on your feet as much as you can. And I know it's innate to a wrestler like myself or a BJJ guy like you, because we like to be on the ground. And it turns into a scuffle that way anyway. But the more you can stay on your feet and create distance, the better you are. And so you ask how I handle it when I go to these concerts and everything. I drink, and my wife calls Uber, and I de-stress and I enjoy the music. And I can do that. Yet I was at the grocery store, and here it is. I'm getting all my stuff ready. I'm rappelling on Saturday. So there's a joint law enforcement deal for law enforcement appreciation at the mall. It's, a massive skylight that we've got to climb literally up on top of the roof. And then we're going to be rappelling down and unfurling the 250-year flag. And we got to do it 3 times. But climbing up on that roof is scary, right? I mean, it's like you got to get out, go up a scaffolding, climb up a slanted 10 roof, go through a window, then harness yourself in, and then by the time I'm harnessed in, I'm great. I trust my equipment. It's what could happen to me on the way up, not the way down, right? I go upside down when I come down and everything. But I'm thinking about all this stuff as I'm bagging my groceries, and this dude comes in and slams up against the counter with his cart because his kids are being morons. And I mean, it was like, boom, I stepped back and I swear to you, I was going to draw down on that guy because I was so freaked out by it. You know what I mean? And I allowed myself to get too much in the moment of what I was doing. And he's like going, oh, I'm really sorry. And I'm thinking, boy, you're an idiot. But there are times where like big crowd's not a big deal. And then you could be bagging groceries and something bad could happen. And it happens all the time. Happens all the time. So.
Yep. Bad people do bad things, and always the worst time.
It's never a good time for a bad thing to happen. But I had thought about this being my final year with SWAT, and I'm staying on because I love the guys, and I think that there's a lot more that I can contribute. I'm going to be going through explosive school a second time in October, and I feel like that's where I'm at. Is I really enjoy the explosive breaching piece to it. There's more problems to solve there, and my longevity on the team is going to be a little bit longer with that. But wouldn't mind talking about train lift shoot just real quick if we have.
Yep, I do want to finish with that. So yeah, trainliftshoot.com combines physical fitness, firearms training, personal development. What inspired you to create it? What misconceptions do people often have about responsible firearms training? And by the way, I remember buying your shirts. Like,
Oh, yeah.
I think when you first started it,
I think I
I
sent
was
a
like,
couple to you for free, too.
that's a super cool shirt. It was like your very first shirt. I was like, that's super cool because like train, lift, shoot. Those are all cool.
That's it,
you know,
right?
all things I love to do.
So we don't
and
really
obviously
do
what you like to
training
do.
anymore. It's really turned more into an apparel business because it exploded. And when it exploded, we weren't prepared for that success. We were advertising heavily. We were doing $10,000 a month in advertising. I think our first year we did almost $300,000 in receipts. It was ridiculous. And then our Facebook got hacked, and Facebook is just, they were going through, that was all going through the George Floyd stuff. All that stuff, if you remember, defund the police, and then Facebook got involved, and you couldn't have a picture of a gun out on Facebook. And so we decided to cut the lines of advertising and do things differently. And I'd rather do less and make more than do more and make less, which is what we were doing. So we do some training on the side, but it's really more of an apparel deal now. I love the fact that whatever I can think of, I can put it into a design, and then I can get it out there to the public. And so we've got some pretty cool stuff out there. We're still going strong. I mean, it's just such a positive message. Originally, when I created it, and we were heavy into teaching Kramp at that time. I just didn't want to pay for my hoodie and my shirt that I was doing. And I was like, well, if I do this and I sell this to all the guys that are coming to classes, that'll pay for my stuff. And then I got a trademark. We've had to defend our brand 9 times.
Really?
Yeah, people will just steal it. Like lift, train, shoot. One guy's like, I used to say this back in Iraq. And, I was like, well, I don't care because I've got the trademark and it protects those 3 words in any order, and yeah, anytime you're successful, just like the school next to you or the school down the street from me or the people that want to rearrange words and try to take your success away, everybody's looking for a shortcut, and there is no shortcut. And that goes for your self-preparedness, right? When you look at your ability to protect your family, self-protection is a self-responsibility. No one is going to come to save you. The response times out in California here, they're better because we're in a smaller town in a conservative state. But you got to train on the mats, right? You got to go to the gym, and you got to be strong and hard to kill, and you got to learn how to shoot. Because we are living in a day and age where constitutional carry will eventually reach its way to California, my friend. They're not going to be able to fight it because it's happening.
Yeah.
I think that there's over 30 states out of the 50 that are now constitutional carry. My permit is the Bill of Rights. That's what I carry with me. So,
yeah.
And I'll tell you, when we pull people over, it's like the guy will say, "Hey, by the way, I'm armed." And I'm like, "Yeah, so am I. Just keep your hands on the steering wheel. We're fine."
Yeah, we're good.
That's it.
Yeah, well, I love it. Like I said, I loved it from the beginning. I've watched it kind of blossom, into, you've got all kinds of new designs and stuff. It's funny, you said you had to defend the name. The podcast I was talking about with my wife, we called it "Keep the Flame Alive," right? And so we get a cease and desist because I didn't trademark the name. We just kind of made it up off the cuff. And just recently, so we had to actually stop using that name altogether because it was trademarked by someone else. And I didn't do it maliciously. We looked at each other and we're like, what are some names we thought?
That's my last name. So I use my own last name.
Right? Didn't work out. But anyway, love the designs, love the shirt, love the message. I will say Moore Park, California is the 4th. It was the 3rd for the longest, 4th safest city in all of California. And our response times are amazing because our PD is awesome. Everybody in the department, awesome, super great. Fire department. We're a small community too, so we got a nice.
That's what I like.
We got fat. I forget. I had the stats on the response time, but I was like, wow, that's quick. Like it seems like it takes longer to get from where you are to where we are in that time. But just wanted to plug our PD and let them know
Good
they're
for
doing
you.
a good
And
job.
I know you're super involved with the community there too.
We are. Yes, sir.
It's great for the law enforcement community and in the fire community there as well. Those guys don't want to do anything else but serve the community. I promise you. And it doesn't matter where they're at. It doesn't matter what city they're in, if it's a blue or a red city. If they're wearing the uniform, their single goal, I promise you 9 out of 10 times, is number one, I want to serve the people that are the good citizens of whatever, Moore Park, and I want to make it home. I want to go home. I've got plans tonight, So
that's right.
Sometimes it doesn't end up.
No, not always. Not always.
I would like to say that your listeners can get a 20% discount on Trail and Shoot with code FLAME.
Nice.
So if anyone's interested, just type in FLAME on your order. Take 20% off the entire order. So.
Well, I appreciate that. Thanks for doing that, and thanks for spending the time with me. Our hour went really, really quick today. I want to be respectful of your time and let you get back to the rest of your day. But thanks for chatting with me, and we'll continue to support each other and follow each other on our Facebook journeys. And if there's ever anything else I can do for you, let me know.
God bless you, bro. And I'm sorry if I droned on too much. I like to talk.
It's all good, man. I enjoyed it. I like listening. So thanks for telling the stories and thanks for sharing everything with us today.
Well, love your God, love your life, and love your wife. You'll be fine. So.
I love that. I love that. Good message to end with. Guys, thank you all for watching. Those of you watching live or will watch this later on the playback, do me a favor, go over to YouTube and subscribe to Master Motivation Podcast. Share the video. And Mr. Kramp, have a blessed day.
Thanks, buddy. We'll talk later.
Take care. All right, guys. Take care. Bye-bye.